This week, we have an interview with Mark Gregory, developer of Solarix, and we're never alone, even though this is the end of civilization as we know it. Put on your fancy pants. This is episode 28 of the Indie Game Riot. Indie Game Riot! Hey everybody, this is JaShinYa, and this is, of course, episode 28 of the Indie Game Riot. And, real quick, because, if you guys, well, hold on. Let's just say the show is about to change. Just minor changes. We're still, news, still starting to riot, still peep show. But just real quick, first of all, we're shortening, I think, the intros we do, except for this one because I'm rambling. And we're also shortening the news. We're just kind of talking points, and then we either have an interview or a discussion point that we're going to be doing. This week, of course, is an interview with Mark Gregory. Thank you, Mark, for joining us on the show, if he's listening. And, of course, well, I don't know, of course, but the last thing, because you guys don't even know, is free fun. We're actually gonna rotate free fun with mobile games. We have free fun this week, but next week will be a mobile game, because we keep leaving out mobile games because we don't really have a spot for them, but they deserve just as much attention, because really the majority of mobile games are indie developers taking their first stride into the indie game community. But with all that said,
step into the sun.
The baby steps.
Yeah.
Why don't you take your step into the sun, Rev, and let us know what's been going on real quick.
Work, more work. I logged 52 billable hours, configured some NAS, rebuilt a couple of servers, and
saved the world.
Yeah, exactly. I've got some whiskey sour. I did get to play Never Alone. I kind of co-opted work equipment so that I could do that. I took my work laptop home with me and was like, fuck you guys, I'm going to be playing games. And
I'm telling.
Yeah, no, I think my boss is okay as long as I'm not watching porn on it. I'm so excited. I can play games on that laptop, not my laptop.
Sweet balls.
That's really cool. This is gonna sound like a really small thing, but earlier this week, my girlfriend and I decided that my room wasn't set up properly. It was a huge mess, and we needed to do something about it. So after 2 consecutive nights of staying up until about 5 in the morning, cleaning out trash, rearranging tables, putting stuff into boxes because I can't throw things away because of separation anxiety. But
you're a pack rat. I'm
a pack rat. I'm not quite a hoarder, as bad as it sounds. But she's like, you're a hoarder. You hoard. Not as bad as the people on the shows. But an accumulative, we did about 6 hours a night, and this room is now almost spotless. Like, you can actually, like, if we ever move to webcams on the show, I won't feel self-conscious about having crap behind me. On my mic sound different. It's because all the stuff.
The acoustics are changed.
Yeah, dude. 12 hours is a lot of stuff that you can move. Other than that, I drove 100 miles yesterday for deliveries, and it sucked.
How about you?
Well, hopefully that translates to good tips, eh?
Yeah, not really.
100
miles.
Well, about me, it's more work stuff. We've all been working this week, it seems. God, freaking being productive.
Hate bills.
What the hell?
Responsible adults.
But yeah, work for me too. And of course, the closer we get to Thanksgiving, the larger my right arm will get because of lifting frozen turkeys. And it's gonna look like, I know it's gonna look like that I'm a charger from Left 4 Dead. See, you didn't know where I was gonna go with that.
You're like,
but it also looks like I was whacking off all day. all day, every day. But that's what I can already feel it in my shoulder. I'm just gonna have like one large. What's gonna happen after Thanksgiving is I'm gonna be a blimp with one large muscular arm.
No, see, you know what? You laugh about that. I have a muscle, like I'm a relatively skinny person, but like my right shoulder is very well defined because of all the sword swinging that I do with like heavy sticks. So it's like my neck is uneven because of that. You're gonna look like that, and you're not even gonna have the like I fight with swords as a cool story.
See, I had a similar.
I fight with turkeys. Bitch.
When I played bass, and I'll make this quick. When I played bass, my left hand, because the frets on a bass guitar are significantly farther apart than a regular guitar, and so I was doing a lot of intricate stuff with my left hand, and so the wrist on my left hand was almost twice the size of the one on my right, and you could look at them and be like, "Oh yeah, that's a really big difference. What do you do?" And it's like, I play bass. Don't worry, it's not special.
I think I need a cortisone injection, but
before
all I can really give myself is an indie news injection. Look at that shit.
That was good.
Are you bored with the same old games?
Yeah.
Why, then give yourself an indie news injection.
Thanks, Indie Games.
Starting out this week on Indie News Injection, Poncho, that lovable little robot, the people who are making him came out with an update after their failed Kickstarter attempt. And yes, they have been making the game like we hoped, and boy, does it look good. Yes. So they have added a lot of things. For one, they have added a lot more critters and creatures, updated their AI, and they are going to be coming out with images of those soon. They have also changed the way the gameplay works, where with separating the different layers that you phase between a lot more, so it's easier to tell which layer you are on, and also adding color transitions between them so you know visually without having to look at an indicator which layer you are actually on as well. They are also in talks with supporting the game on the PS4 and the PS Vita. They have managed to get enough funding from what I will bring up in a second to actually get onto those platforms, and they have also secured a developer that they have worked with in the past. They have yet to come out with the developer's name, but they still have complete creative control. Now,
developer or publisher?
Publisher. I am sorry, I misspoke. I was looking at this page and I was like, "Oh, development." No, they are working with a publisher that they have developed with in the past, and they've also secured a lot more funding. They are also they've also submitted to IGF to see if they make it into a finalist in any of the categories, and I think that they really support that. And on top of that, they got greenlit by Steam.
Woo!
So, like, multiple hurdles. This team is working super hard. They really do care about this game, and like it shows in the gameplay. We talked about it before.
The game's beautiful.
Yeah, it's amazing. You can check out more information in the link below to their blog post, to their website. And, it's such a fun game.
Can we get Danny on here?
Oh, I would love to.
Yeah, you will contact him.
So cool. Yeah, do that.
You feel free to contact whoever the hell you want.
Yeah.
This is for our new PR intern.
So, you want to do this? Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. We can both do it. So, to the guy at GameStop, if you ever miss... No, you said both. I swear to God, I'm going to burn your store down and hurt you. The devs that made Goat Simulator have announced that they're going to make the Goat MMO Simulator.
It's out.
Oh, is it out already?
Yeah, it's already out, unfortunately.
Okay, so apparently I'm behind times, but, it's a horrible, shitty experience, so who cares?
It's not.
It's not, though. That's the thing.
Okay, this is...
expect it to be.
One fantastic thing about indie games here, just I know we're not doing talking points since we had an interview, but is that indie games can be hated by so many, like a certain indie game, not to mention any names, and
Simulator.
But yeah, so many other people play the shit out of it.
Well, I'm not denying that it's fun. I will never deny that it is fun to run around as a retarded goat and run into trees and stuff.
I can see killing some time, but to charge, what do they charge, like $15?
Well, that's a business decision, and I can't go into
My
that.
business stays in my pants. I mean my wallet.
But I love the idea. I love the idea of them saying, you know what, we're gonna push the absurdity level even further, and we're not actually doing it as an MMO. No, it's a simulation of the MMO.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
that's.
Well, I think actually this does actually raise the game up a level in their defense, I guess, is because it's no longer just retarded. It's no longer just stupid. They're actually adding satire to
a game.
They're adding because they're satirically making fun of WoW through Goat Simulator. Now that I can kind of get behind because it's now about humor and less about stupid. If that makes sense.
You can play some microwave.
Yes, I'm actually looking forward to that. Can you believe that?
With legs, and you can set people on fire.
I'm legitimately, I had no interest in Goat Simulator. It was fun, and I appreciated the social commentary that that they presented with it. This takes that commentary to a whole new level. This is now at a level of absurdist realism that rivals Stephen Colbert. Yeah, and I'm okay with that.
Well, I was thinking it's starting to go up to South Park, you know what I mean, where that's their whole South Park's whole thing is satire, and they did a WoW episode,
which was hilarious,
and of course that's not. I mean, it was the humor is witty, but at the same time stupid, and it's starting to reach that point where it's now becoming a game that makes sense in that way.
Yeah,
but in a nonsensical way.
In the nonsensical way.
It gives you more things to do.
Yeah,
it's like a Van Gogh painting of humor.
It is free DLC, by the way. So if you bought the game, and that's the other nice thing about it. I mentioned $15 is really, but now that they're releasing this for free, it's starting.
Released.
Yeah.
Sorry, released. They released it for free. It's added to the content and
they have done this in the past. They added another level that you could play a few months ago for free. We didn't talk about it because it's literally the same thing in a different level.
It's Goat Simulator on a farm.
One of the coolest things they had about this, and I watched some gameplay of this, where you start out and the chat just erupts in relatively normal MMO sort of RuneScape-y talk, and for a second you're like, we're not online. I didn't join a server. These aren't real people.
There's gold farmers.
But yeah, exactly. There are people asking to marry you. There are people like, hey, everyone hop over to the goat pile and the starting thing. We're gonna, do this thing, or hey, I'm selling this or something like that. But it's really it's constant. It's not spammy, but it's constant, and it's just that extra level of depth that they actually made this to be an MMO simulator. Yeah, it's. I've played Goat Simulator, and it was gimmicky,
to say the least.
And I wanted to try all the cool stuff that everyone else had tried, but this is with 6 classes, all this other stuff.
I kind of feel bad because our show is all about supporting indie games, and I feel bad knocking this game all the time. I think it's a little bit. I think it's a little bit easier. Yeah, no, I think it's a little bit easier is because the studio behind it, has created great games.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So it's a little bit easier. I know they're good developers. It's just this game particularly.
It was intentionally designed, and I will never take that away from them.
Right.
However, I do think that it's kind of getting late in the UK, and we should probably bring Mark into the chat for the interview.
Oh, snap. Talk about a game that's not stupid. We're
Solarix!
Interviewing Solarix dev. Mark Gregory, one of the devs of Solarix, the indie game about stealth. Sorry, I can't speak or think today. About stealth with a slightly creepy environment, and it's still currently in early access, but you can still check it out. It's not in early access anymore.
Nope.
Where is it?
Available early 2015, Josh.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Not early access. Sorry, early access is the wrong words.
Sorry.
I meant early build. Early development is what I meant. I just think early access because
Alpha.
Yeah, there you go. Alpha is an alpha build, and we have some questions for Mr. Mark Gregory because this is an interview and that's what we do in interviews. So first things first, before we actually talk about the game, we always like to ask because what the show Indie Game Riot is about, if you know or don't know, is really just helping indie devs and the games and just really strengthening the community around indie games. What about the indie game community have you really enjoyed the most? Like, what's some of the best experiences you had, whether it be with fans or other devs or even just developing your game?
So far, the biggest highlight has been the response to the people that have got to play the alpha so far. Last weekend, we did our first expo in the UK, in Hull, and the feedback was really overwhelming from the whole gaming community. Really, the people that managed to get hands on with the game, they were playing the game in so many different ways that we never even thought of. They found that many different hooks in the game that we just didn't even know existed. I mean, after you spend 4 years staring at a screen and playing this thing every day, it all kind of just blurs together. So getting it out there and getting it into people's hands was a real eye opener for us.
That's awesome because you mentioned it was like the stealth aspect where you kind of had to figure out your way around it. It kind of sounds puzzly in a way, just because you have to kind of strategize, but it's not linear as far as like how to get from point A to point B, which is awesome that it's so open like that.
Yeah. Stealth's a huge aspect of it's the biggest gameplay pull that we've got, obviously, and like with any stealth game, you have to interact, watch, and learn the AI to learn its patterns. And if you try to do anything quickly in Solarix, you're going to become unstuck rather quickly. So
that's a follow-up question to that point, and this isn't one of my actual interview questions, it just kind of came to mind, is how do you combat the problem that previous stealth games have had when when you like, we'll use a AAA game for example, one I'm relatively familiar with, the Splinter Cell series, because I love stealth games.
I was thinking about that game too when I thought I saw this.
I would play a stealth game over any other game any day of the week, but some of the older Splinter Cell games definitely had a problem with the replayability. Sure, there were a couple of different paths that you could take, but the AI always was in the same spots doing the same thing, and their pathing and their alertness level, as it were, was always dictated in a very strict manner. So how did you combat that with Solarix?
See, the gameplay premise for our game is really old school, shall we say, in its rooting. Most of the guys are 30 years and older on the team. We've got no really younger devs on the team. So we all grew up playing the original Thief games, the very first Splinter Cells, like you said, System Shock 2, Half-Life. So we were kind of all really influenced by those sorts of games, Deus Ex. So our philosophy around the way the AI works is isn't too dissimilar from what you've already discussed. The set pathways, and the AI is just really switched on. It can, at times it feels like it's living and breathing, like, because we spent 12 to 18 months in the back end developing the AI before we set to on anything else, really. So
it seems like you guys are really, you're not rushing this at all. You're making sure that it's polished, that it's not gonna you're not gonna just like get stuck and break the game or anything like that. That's probably a really good thing because we've seen a lot of these like early build games have that issue in the indie game community. So
the design premise, the whole design premise behind the game is not to hold players' hands. So in Solarix, you don't get a mini-map, you don't get a map at all. You get there's no cutscenes or anything like that. Everything's prompted on screen. So you have to pay attention to your environment, and you have to pay attention to what the characters are telling you is your next objective. You obviously have an objective screen, and then it's up to you to navigate the environment how you want. So we're not going to hold players' hands there, Yeah,
and I feel like that also ties in with Rev's question with replayability, because there are a lot of from what we're gathering, like there are set paths and set actions that the AI is going to do, but you're not trapped in a hallway like a lot of older stealth games are, where you have to stealth between this point and that point, and there's a wall on your right and there's a wall on your left, and there's stuff in front of you. Have fun. And that's fun. Like all of us have had fun playing those games, but you don't see a lot of. And I think the new Thief game that came out tried the open world thing, but it was very much here's a kind of an open world, and then you have to go into this dark hallway that leads you to another hallway and another window, and there's a very clear path. And it
kind of seemed like Thief was kind of like a Dishonor type thing. Yeah,
and that actually ties into another question of mine.
Segue.
Because this game is very open ended. Do you have
play style?
In play style. Do you have story arcs that change depending on how you go about the game, or are the objectives pretty straightforward in that aspect?
The objectives are pretty linear, but how you go about completing an objective is totally up to you.
So we're not going to have we're not going to have an issue like in Dishonored that was mentioned, where you have two different ways of going about a level: the good way or the bad way. And if you do the bad way, you get the bad ending. But if you do the good way, you get the good ending. But it doesn't tell you that straight out.
No, we're focused just on one set narrative, not multiple ways of telling the story. So
I like that. That way you can get a good narrative down that actually makes sense and is fun, instead of having to worry about all these different lines and...
Yeah, tying in, God, yeah. But I mean, our maximum, we were a team of 14, including voice actors. Which we just wouldn't have the staffing to cope with that, really. So we've consciously made a design decision to try and make the game achievable. So
awesome.
Even though it's been 4 years,
it's a labor of love.
It certainly is. It certainly is.
And you mentioned some like the older. I guess I don't know if they were probably smaller studios at that point, but some of the older games that are now considered AAA that have inspired this game. Are there any indie devs or indie games that kind of inspired this game, or even just your choice to be in the career of game development?
Personally, when Amnesia came out, it really resonated with me. It really struck me as something that was. I hadn't really been scared by a game since I first probably played Resident Evil when I was all of.
I guess that's
scary.
When I was all of 9-10 years old, sat in my friend's kitchen, hovered over
the first
TV and just shitting my pants as a 10-year-old, thinking I shouldn't be playing this, really.
First time the zombie dogs came through, I about crapped my pants.
But I think everybody did, Or that very first zombie.
Yeah.
I don't know what was more horrifying now, though, the voice acting in that game, or the actual game design behind it.
So in terms of like horror level, like on your site, there's a lot of stuff about like how this is actually, it's not a jump scary game. It's a very like drawn out psychological horror. Like, are you looking for a similar level of horror to those older games where you are actually afraid most of the time, and not even of something possibly popping out at you, but actually scared?
That's what we'd like to achieve. Yeah. That's the type of level we'd like to achieve. But it's more about the horror of the story and the horror of what the human mind can go through as well when it's stuck in an environment that's not normal. So
yeah, that kind of.
what was the response with the people who played the game at your last expo about like that aspect of it? Were they actually like genuinely scared, or was the like how did that go down?
It went down well, maybe not quite as well as what I was hoping. They found the gameplay, if I'm honest, there was more tension in the gameplay, because our AI, as I've said before, is super switched on.
All right.
They were more focused on not getting caught.
That's what I was going to say actually, is that that I think that for me personally, that's scarier than any kind of jump. I mean, a jump scare makes you jump and scream and whatever, but then it's over. That constant tension of like, oh my god. I can imagine, because there were times, like you mentioned Amnesia, and even Outlast, where you're like hiding in a corner in a shadow, and the thing is like right there in front of you, and you're just like, I'm gonna die. I can imagine that being amplified like 100 times in this game, just because that's like the stealth aspect is being the main mechanic of it.
Yeah. So the way that I would describe that is, you can say you see your objective. You want to take out the lights around that area. So I'd pull out my pistol, which is silenced. I'd take out the lights, making sure that the AI is not surrounding the lights, because the AI can hear that the bulb's broken and he'll go and investigate. So wait till he's a decent amount away, so I can shoot out the light. I can go and hack. But if I've got no bullets, because there's really limited ammunition within the game, then there's the stress of you're turning around all the time whilst you're hacking, because while you're hacking, you're taking down the mainframe at the same time, the security on the door. So you've got to be super switched on all the time and be listening for those footsteps and listening for those audio cues from the AI talking to itself or talking in the background to each other.
Man, that audio engineering is key too. That's gonna when we get to play this game fully, I don't know. I'm gonna have so much tension, and Rev's gonna just die.
No, I can handle the tension in gameplay. It's the scary, creepy thriller aspect. But speaking of tension and tension breaking, one of the more recent engagements that I had with the game that absolutely ruined my experience with the game was Deus Ex Human Revolution and the boss fights in this. Because like I said, I play a lot of stealth games. I prefer that genre. I love that genre. And I stealthed my way through every bloody level of that game, and then I get to a boss fight, and my only option is to go balls to the wall with a machine gun to try and get through this, and I'm geared completely for stealth and okay. Yeah. So are we going to encounter... I'm hoping, and I'm assuming no, but are we going to end up with a similar situation in Solarix where we're able to completely ghost through the area, but then we have to go Rambo on a boss?
You can ghost through everything. There are no bosses. There's some AI that's even more switched on than our mercenaries. We have a cyborg, if you will, and he's by far the most powerful enemy that you'll come across in the game. You don't come across him too often. He's used really sparingly, but you don't want to tangle with that guy. You need to take your time and
hack him down.
Try and get around him, because he'll waste you. You're not. Our protagonist Walter is an electrical engineer. He's not a soldier. He's woken up. He's lost his memory, and everybody's dead. So he's not a soldier. So he's not geared for combat. So any sort of combat in the game that you get into is going to feel really clunky and really underpowered, because you're not a soldier and because you've never fired a weapon before. So
now
you can't go around popping off headshots and because you're going to run out of ammo, and then there's going to be parts where you can't get past. So it's all about conserving your ammunition and being aware of what your next objective is We do have a shotgun in the game for when shit hits the fan. But that thing makes a load of noise, and it's going to draw everything within the area to you. So it's really, you don't want to be using that if you can get away with it. So
now, this isn't my interview question to you, but just a follow up to that. But now it makes sense to me, and I'm pretty sure everyone listening, that since you're explaining it, that since he's not a soldier, it's going to feel clunky. But when you say clunky, is it? Do you make the controls purposefully like he can't, like the aiming isn't very steady or anything like that, or is it kind of like that? Because I feel like there's people out there who aren't going to understand. They're not going to get that into their head, and they're going to complain about it. Do you think that might happen, or
so? Probably more to do with the recoil that'll happen, and the time that it'll take to reload a weapon. That is the way we'll try and balance that.
Mm.
That's actually really cool that you would say that, because that is a real world issue. Like having, I mean, I know that you're in the UK and firearms aren't very readily available, and and
paintball gun, dude. I have a paintball gun. I will shoot you with a paintball gun.
No, I'm just saying those are really realistic things to happen. Like having fired a lot of different types of weapons, like those are the issues that you come across. It's like you don't know how exactly the magazine will fit into the gun, or you might short cock a slide and your first shot won't even go off, and you'll have to recock the slide or something like that. And that's actually a really cool way of
no one knows what you're talking about.
What was that?
No one knows
you don't know what I'm talking about.
No, I know what you're talking about. But
it's a really cool way of adding that level of, like you said, clunkiness into the game that isn't hindering the player. It's
more like realistic clunkiness. It's not like you're purposefully making it like to put it into an example, like what the hell, the Surgeon Simulator, where they purposely make it like ridiculously stupid. You know what I mean? It's
Quap.
Yeah. But my actual interview question anyway is, you mentioned I forget if you mentioned it during the interview or not, but you mentioned to me at least before the interview that you actually have this voice acted. What made you decide to do that? And if you want to shout out some of the voice actors, that's fine too.
Can you repeat the question? Sorry, I kind of got lost.
No, it's okay. I didn't hear what the question was either.
Oh God. Okay.
Well, you rambled.
Okay. Well, you know what? Ramble yourself. Voice. You mentioned to me that voice actors are in the game. What made you decide to get the game voice acted instead of like just a silent protagonist with monsters? Is it like a full...
to try and get across the point of our story? Really, we've been lucky enough to have a talented writer come on board, and he had a story to tell, and the best way to honour that was to hire some guys to do that. We've been lucky that we've had a couple of AAA guys that have worked on AAA titles.
Really? Are you allowed to say who?
Yeah, we've had Joe Thomas, who's worked on oh my god, what was the DC fighting game? DC Universe on DC verse. He's worked on WoW and things like that. We've had God, put me on the spot. Trying to remember who our VO are. We've had Lucas, who's worked on several mobile games in the past. He's also worked on Deus Ex: The Fall. Not sure if that's a good or a bad thing for him. And several other VO. I'm not sure what Tamara's worked on before, but she does a stand-up job as the character Betty. And Perry as our AI Amy. She's excellent, and she's worked in several games before as well. So awesome. Everybody's got experience working in video games. So
I just like how fully rounded you're developing this game out, because I mean a lot of indie games, understandably, have to cut certain things out of the games, whether it be art or voice acting, with audio and things like that. So I really like right. So I really like how you're putting everything into this and taking your time.
We're trying. I mean, I'll be brutally honest. It's too big for a team of our size, but we're so close now. We're putting everything into finishing it and trying to polish it as much as we can.
Well, it looks fantastic. Because I'm going to put that gameplay footage into the edited version of the show, and you got some great textures going on. Because in the new gameplay footage you showed me, I mentioned that like the walls, there's water dripping down them. They look like really nice and reflective, and they actually look wet. So you're doing a great job for, like you said, a team of your size. And you said too, you mentioned some of you guys. You got I just wanted to shout out because they're all obviously putting hard work into this. Boris and Iman. I'm not going to try and pronounce the last names, but Boris and Iman, David Stanziger, Adel Sonatov. They do the programming, or the first two do the programming. David and Adele do the art. FX artist Stan Daniel and musician Eddie Kasabian. So you're all doing a great job.
Yeah, definitely. I have a question that sort of ties in with the voice acting thing a little bit. So this is a very story driven game, which is what I'm getting through this. How are you telling the story? Because you don't really have a map. You say that you're very minimal menus. Like, is this through the main character talking, or other characters that you found along the way?
So like the way that they did it in Half-Life is probably the easiest way. Okay. So you were told the story in game.
All right.
So the story unfolds in game. We have a totally silent protagonist, and the story's told through the different characters that you come across
and different
in the game. Like we said, there's different set pieces that will happen. As I said before, there's no cutscenes, so it's very old school in its design premise. So we've tried to honour that as much as possible, because we kind of want to show kids today what it was like to play games when we were growing up. You guys seem around the same age as me, so back in the PC gaming heyday, we kind of want to show people that we didn't have IGN to hold our hand through walkthroughs and things like that, so.
Yeah. Well, I think that's, is there anything else you wanted to bring up, Tech, before I just kind of go through some of the information on the game?
Rev, is there anything else that you had a question about?
Well, I was doing that because Rev is dead, so.
Oh, Rev died. Never mind.
Basically, just give some information on the game. The website, excuse me, is pulsetens.com/Solarix. I keep wanting to say Solarix. And you can check it. You can actually follow the game on Steam. So I'm assuming you're going to get that on Steam eventually.
It's already on Steam.
Oh, you can actually buy it. I'm sorry.
You can't buy it. It's just the community hub's already in place and everything. So our store page is already there on Steam.
It releases that people will be able to buy it.
Yeah, that's what I'm meaning to say. It's just I'm working on 4 hours of sleep too.
Now here's a quick question. Are you going to just release the full game when it's released, or are you going to have an early access period or a beta period where people can buy in?
That's a good question.
A single player game doesn't suit that business model, in our opinion, at least anyway. So we're gonna wait till it's done.
Awesome.
And
that's a
well, now you threw me off, Tech.
You were talking about the the website.
The website.
People
it's going to be available on PC first, and you said eventually it's going to be on Mac as well. Is there any chance for a Linux release ever?
Our version of, because we're using UDK, it doesn't support that. And maybe if we get hold of the source code from Epic for UE3, maybe we can do that one day. But
for now, PC.
For now, PC is the main focus.
All right, awesome. And
you want the Xbox release talked about?
Talked about, not gone any further.
Okay, gotcha.
And it's going to be released, you said, in early 2015, hopefully. And no prices yet, just because you're going to talk about that and discuss it. You got plenty of time to discuss that. And I think I heard Rev back. Do you have any last things to say before?
I'm back. I have two really super fast questions.
Okay.
One, a more lighthearted nature. Does your team wear pants when they're working on the game?
I'd hope so. Some of the amount of Skype sessions that we've done, it'd be kind of weird if not.
And then the second one is, do you have like a newsletter or something that I could sign up for so that as soon as the game is released, I can start playing it?
We're actually on a press junket, so for him.
Yes, but I want an instant...
There is no list at the moment. It's something we're working on the website. The back end of the website's had a massive overhaul in the last 3 months. We now have forums, which we try and keep up to date as much as possible. That we're desperately trying to populate. So anybody that does take an interest in the game, be sure to go along to there and sign up to it. We keep our Steam page really up to date with everything that's going on. So any sort of updates that we put out through Steam as well, so you could always follow us on that, and then you would get the latest updates. You could follow the game on Steam, then you'd get the latest updates as well. So,
and you also have a Twitter. So.
We do, which we're really active on, which is at Pulse Tense Games, and we also have a Facebook, which is the same. So
awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mark, for joining us on the show. I know you got to get to sleep because it's late over there.
It's like 4 o'clock in the morning over there.
Over in the UK. And yeah, so again, pulsetense.com/Solarix. Go check it out. Buy it when it comes out. We'll let you know and keep you updated. Of course, you can always check on our stuff as well, like our Twitter and all that. Blah blah blah. I'm not gonna pimp us out because that's just shameful. Yeah, thanks again, Mark. Any last words?
Nope. Thanks for having me, guys. Enjoyed myself. Cheers.
All right, see you.
Get some sleep.
It's been an honor. Sleep well.
Good night.
Cheers, boys. See you later. Bye.
Now that it's 4 o'clock in the morning in the UK and Mark has drifted off into Coder's dreamland, we need a riot to wake him up.
Start the riot.
And this week on Starting the Riot, we have an amazing game. It's called Never Alone, because you are never alone.
Except for you.
This game,
you're always alone.
Well, yeah. So,
forever alone.
Forever alone. Me and my hand.
Oh.
And my controller that's plugged into my laptop playing Never Alone. It's actually its indigenous name is I'm gonna butcher this pronunciation, and I apologize to every Alaska Natives.
Note to self: slow this part down, slow motion. All right, go ahead.
Kizima Ingechudnuna.
Kizima Ingechudnuna.
Perfect.
No, that was bad, and I know it was bad.
You're bad. You should feel bad.
So this was yes. This game was developed in collaboration with the Inupiat, a native Alaskan people, and it tells the story of one of my understanding is one of their cultural legends, and one of the interesting things about this game was not just the game itself, because it's kind of it's a puzzle platformy adventure type game. The art style, fucking amazing. Like I could just
it is
stare.
Cool.
It's very well done, and even if you drop it down to low settings, like low quality, it's still amazing.
There's a screenshot on the website of, I'm not sure what you would call it, but it's like got a big face with giant eyes and it's wearing a parka. Have you seen it?
Which, be more specific, is it the bad guy dude?
I don't know if he's
the pipe.
I don't know if he's a bad guy. He's like holding something glowing in front of the protagonist.
Oh no, that's a friend. He gives you the bola.
I just think he gives you Ebola.
The
Ebola, not Ebola. Get out of Tanzania. Or wherever they're currently having it.
No, but I was saying like that was the first thing that caught my eye out of their screenshots, and I don't know, the dude I think just looks really cool.
The art style, like I said, it's fantastic, and the change in tempo, I guess, is a good way. They really manage that. But the thing that really, really sucks me into this game is okay, it's a puzzly platformy game. I went into this with the understanding that it's a puzzly platformy adventure game, and just wanted to experience the gameplay. But what I found myself doing is hunting every bloody level for these little owls that you unlock new videos. And it's not videos in the game, but they've actually sat down and done interviews with people that are from this from this Alaskan tribe, and tell us about the lifestyle. Tell us about how it was when you were growing up. Tell us about things like that, and give us demonstrations. Tell us about your art and so like I'm frantically searching for these unlockable videos, and they do a very good job. If you're just running through the game, you'll unlock most of them. I think I've only missed like 2, and I'm assuming I'm 2/3 of the way through the game. Because not spoiling.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, I was gonna be like, no, there's a very emotional moment. I'm not a very emotional person, but I had to stop playing the game and turn it off and like compose myself. And I haven't had to do that since I was playing what was the game? Spec Ops. And that was more an introspective. This one like emotionally touched me because like, give me this or I'm going to, and so I did something and then something else happened and it was bad. I'm trying not to spoil it for you guys.
I think it helps too, just the fact that it's freaking beautiful.
Yeah.
It is.
Like it's just aesthetically it makes you emotional just by looking at it. Like you said, the artwork is just like it's like a cultural impact on you. And I don't know if you read in the website, the art and actually the story all came from those native storytellers that they were talking to.
Yeah,
right.
Like directly from them.
And they like with Rev, what you were saying, Rev, like they have a lot of stuff that you can unlock in the game, but like they did like they didn't just do research. Like they actually brought people in. Like this is as much as their game as
it is the developers.
Exactly. Right. And it's like then you look at some of the art that they got from these peoples, and you look at the pictures that they have and the environments that they've been in, and it's just like it's so amazing because you can really see the culture. You can see how they lived and how they created art and their ideas and
how they brought that from reality into this game.
And it's very human. Like you don't get a lot of games where you have that sort of human connection. And right. I feel like that's always the thing that is really big in the...
Yeah, there is kind of a disconnect with a lot of like violent games and things like that. Just because it's so over the top. But I think too, with this particular culture, the Inuit culture, you said it's a specific tribe.
Inupiat.
Right. It's not a culture that's really... How do I say? It's not something that people really... When you think about a minority culture, it's not, you think of, Native Americans, like we talked to Elizabeth however long ago about her tribe.
She's I guess technically Canada is part of the Americas, so.
But I'm just saying, like anywhere in the world, but
right.
But the tribes up in Alaska and northern Canada and all that sort of stuff
tend to get short shrift.
Right, you don't really think about them, so it's cool that we're finally getting attention on this and realizing how beautiful of a culture it is.
Yeah, and go ahead.
Jinx, you owe me a code.
Brought to you by Domino's. Yeah. One of the things that really helps sell this game is looking at the art and hearing the music that the native elders and their storytellers are giving in these interviews and in the videos that you unlock as you play, and then seeing things in game, like you have an animal companion. This game is technically co-op capable. I refuse to play it co-op. Yeah. I refused to play it co-op because of one of our listeners who, when I first announced that I was going to play it, was like, no, seriously, you're going to murder whomever you're playing with. But it is, you're playing as a little girl named Nuna, I believe is the pronunciation, and she has an animal companion, an Arctic fox. And as you play through this game, the fox being, the embodiment of nature, as it were, he has connections to the spirit world. And so you're finding yourself using the fox to unlock or access spirit helpers so that you can progress through the puzzles. And like one of the big things that started really drawing me emotionally into this game was the fact that when one of the characters dies, and it's excuse me, it's possible for them to die, and it's a relatively quick thing. But, if you accidentally fall off your ice floe into the ocean while being chased by the bear, or the bear catches up to you and kills you, the other one reacts to that. And it's such a simple little thing. If the fox if you're playing as the fox and the fox dies, the little girl drops to her knees and kind of just cries a little bit. And it's not like a over the top, oh, he's dead. No, it's just like well, that sucks,
Yeah.
And if she's the one that dies,
I was just imagining someone like if you died and like your wife or your husband were like, oh well, that sucks.
But that's kind of the tonality, not necessarily the meat of that was what I was going for.
Right,
and if the little girl dies, if you accidentally fall off a cliff, the fox circles up in a little ball, covers his face with his tail and does a little sad whine. Like, this game really draws me into it just for that alone. So I really want to say, good on Upper One Games for bringing this to us. The controls are nice. The co-op aspect of it, I'm afraid to try because I don't want to hurt anybody if they accidentally kill my fox. And it's amazing. I can't say enough about this game.
So right now, is it what it's available for just PC?
I believe so.
Yeah, it's just for Windows, but it's not on Steam.
It is on Steam, right? Yeah.
Well, but you can also get it off of Steam.
Well, it's PC, Xbox One, and PS4 actually, and Steam,
okay.
and then like you said, direct download. And then it is currently, what is the price currently? I'm actually
looking for that.
Because they don't have it ready available.
Yeah.
Let me go back to Steam.
Wow, we did our while you guys are.
Well, that's because we have the website open and it's usually like right there, but I just realized that it's not.
And we're talking so much about this game, but like it's being picked up. Like, this is an indie game, but we're talking publications like Time and The Guardian and
NPR
and Mirror and NPR, and it's like I actually heard about this game on NPR while I was working. I'm like, oh, we're gonna be talking about that later this week, and it's like there's a reason people are talking about it. There's a reason we this is the second time we've talked about this game,
and we need more games like this too. Like, I mean, I mentioned Elizabeth earlier, but she's kind of like a crusader for for getting
$15 for $13.49 on Steam right now.
There you go. But she's kind of a crusader for getting more attention to cultures like this, and she always I can't even think of the words, man. I can't think of the words.
It's just too beautiful.
Lack of sleep. But anyway,
yeah,
more attention to these kinds of cultural games because we need it. And Elizabeth, she's actually I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name, to be honest. It starts with an M. Or
Hennessy.
No. Or no, I'm thinking of your friend Elizabeth. Yeah, thank you.
I believe it's Hennessy, but Hennessy. I'm horrible with pronunciation.
Well, there you go. She's on our Twitter. You can follow her because she tweets out about a lot of stuff if you are into like these cultural games. But also, please follow. If you're going to do that, follow. God, look at me! Like my 4 hours of sleep. Upper One Games. Jeez. All right. Well, before I have an aneurysm, I think this is the end of starting the riot, right?
Yeah.
Did we raise a riot? Did we raise a riot? I think we did.
We did.
At least a peep.
At least a peep.
This is the end of starting the riot, and on to Peep Show.
Please give all your attention to Early access.
This week on Peep Show, we are checking out a game called EndCiv. It is Fallout meets Dwarf Fortress meets Caesar 3. It is real. It is. It's seriously.
Caesar 3.
Caesar 3 is a city building game from like the
I would have said something
the time of Caesar.
I would have said maybe Age of Empires.
Well, yeah, Age of Empires
minus the war.
Empire Earth, but like it manages people better than those.
True. Okay.
It is a survival city builder where you fight to keep your citizens fed, safe, warm, or watch them wither away in the harsh wasteland they inhabit. It is a game by Crowbox, currently being, I believe, Indiegogo'd. If I am not.
Yes, it is an Indiegogo.
It's an Indiegogo campaign. They are looking for $15,000 US or 12,000 euros, which sounds like exactly, which sounds like a lot of money. But then you think about it, and you're like, that's not a whole lot of money to, give to a game of this scope. Like, as it
especially some of the other stuff we've talked about.
Exactly.
When you think about it.
And so this game has a lot of things going for it. It has a very dynamic AI, a dynamic world, day, night, weather, all that stuff. You have to build a city, and there are things that'll happen in the game, and they have a lot of this in place. They have all the building mechanics already set in stone for their game, as well as the weather, the day-night cycle, and the citizen behavior. They've locked down the art style, have plenty of the art done, and even though it's in pre-alpha prototypes, they have a really clear direction, which is really good for a company that's coming out and giving us a crowd-funded game.
You're talking about dynamic. Dynamic is like the perfect word for this. There's so many things going on underneath the game that it's really impressive for a small indie studio like this.
It's almost like what Mark was talking about with biting off more than you can chew.
Right. I'm not sure how many people exactly are.
There are 6 people.
Oh, you counted them?
Yes, they have.
Okay.
Here, let me just check on their website, which doesn't actually want to load, so I'm not going to load their website. But it was 6 people. I think 1 coder, 2 artists, and then a project head.
And not to mention that two of the coders have seen AAA action.
Yeah.
Kevin Scheitler. By the way, this is it's a German game, so Kevin Scheitler. I don't know. Is that offensive?
Just mildly.
He worked on a game called Handball Action. Obviously, no one's heard of that. At least I don't know. Okay, all right, we give the guy credit, but it was made by a large studio. He probably just got stuck on that game or something like that. And then the other guy, Katsuri. I'm not. Fuck that. Sorry, man. You got a name that's out of my league. But he worked on Might and Magic and Black Prophecy Tactics. Might and Magic is a pretty damn big game. Free to play on Steam, I think it is. So I mean, they've got experience behind coding games. So and I think that this is a game that, again, we talked about a little bit with Mark about games not getting finished sometimes when they're in these stages. But I think with these people behind it, that's a very low risk.
Yeah, and like I said, they already have a lot going for them. They have working prototypes. They have a lot of the meat and potatoes, as it were, done. And they've already sunk thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars into this game. I think it was something like over 8,000 euros, which is roughly about 10,000-ish dollars.
Real dollars.
Yeah. and just for the cost breakdown, 43% of the funding is going to development costs, paying the team, paying for space, different, things that happen in development.
I think they basically want to eat while they're developing this game.
Exactly.
Which I don't know. I think it's a little rude.
See, when I read that, I felt like there was a bit of a language barrier in that, because I read that, I'm like, that's kind of weird. And then I thought about it, like, no, that actually makes sense. 42% of the funding is going to game art, design, 3D modeling assets, etc. And then 10% of the funding goes to audio production, and then the 5% is left for Indiegogo fees. For $19 US, it's a little less, but it's basically $19. You can get the game. You pay a little bit more. You can actually get into the beta of the game. You can design your own PC for $125 US. And again, on the Indiegogo page, this is all in euros. I converted it all for you before we went into this. You can design other characters. You can get an art book. You can... they have a lot of really flexible options for you to fund this game that aren't just get the game. And because it's such an in-depth game with features that I really like they have yet to, I guess, get this working, but the economy that they're proposing in this game is like so awesome. And I've wanted a game like this in this sort of real-time strategy game.
Yeah, I think you and I are pretty big. I don't know, Rev, you've never really given like a strong opinion whether you're into these kind of simulation management games. Are you into city builders?
Let me just put it this way. If there is anybody that has logged more than 6,000 hours in Rome,
yeah,
I have yet to meet them other than myself.
Yeah.
So it's fair to say that all three of us are pretty pumped.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we're all into city builders.
No, actually, I'm pissed.
Why?
Because you can't get it yet.
Pissed, and here's why. Because they run it. They're running their campaign on Indiegogo, and for whatever reason, Indiegogo doesn't like my card, so I can't fucking donate.
What about PayPal?
I bet you could.
No, my PayPal account is locked because I refuse to give them copies of my social security and birth certificate.
Well, that's for tax purposes, but yeah.
Yeah, well, fuck PayPal.
But see, they have... When I said that this game has a lot of ambition, we've talked about dynamic day-night cycles, we've talked about the citizen AI, but you also have an economy manager that is more than just a standard economy. Because you're in a wasteland, there isn't a lot of stuff, so you can maybe make a city that is really wealthy, but your defense isn't going to have the people dedicated to it to actually make a difference.
And because it's wealthy, they're going to get attacked.
Exactly. Or
I've got water. Oh.
Not
exactly.
anymore.
Or you could focus on defense, and then all of a sudden your citizens are starving because you put so much money into defending your lands that you don't have enough farmers to make food. Like, that sort of, again, going back to the word dynamic, that dynamic aspect of the economy not only being an economy to buy stuff, but also to support the people who are interacting within your little town is a level of immersion for real-time strategy games that we haven't seen a lot, and we definitely haven't seen it recently.
The integration of weather into this economic
and how that reacts,
that is one that really draws me for this. Like, yeah, we've had like going back into the Rome Total War and Medieval Total War and other sim games like that. When you get into the combat aspect, sure, weather plays a role, accuracy decreases in the rain, but having the weather affect the core gameplay,
and how citizens react. Like, how quickly is it going to take for Ishmael over there to walk from his hut to his job? Like,
you really feel like, I think in the people management part of this, you really feel like you're actually the leader of this ragtag town.
And see, that also ties in with the day-night cycle, because people sleep.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's definitely like civilization. That's why I said it's Fallout because of the post-apocalyptic feel, but it's also Dwarf Fortress because you have people doing specific jobs and they're actual people.
And they have, wants and needs and all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And one thing, though, I have a little question about is, like, it's not a problem with the game, but it's just weird to me. They mentioned that you can, farm resources out in the world, one of them being energy. How does that work?
It's probably like sort of the
solar powered or nuclear.
How do you farm that, though?
You build a solar farm, dumbass.
You can harness geothermal energy, or maybe there's this.
No, they make it seem like there's like plots, like where you like, okay, here's a plot of land with this resource, and there's another plot of land with this resource.
Possibly.
But anyway, That's
again,
neither here nor there.
it's still prototyped out pre-alpha.
That's not even a problem with the game. It was just weird to me in my
just
head.
a note.
So yeah, it is currently.
They're going to make it on all the various platforms. It's Windows, Mac, and Linux.
Yeah.
It is currently 27 days out at the time of this recording, as far as the campaign goes. So by the time this comes out, which hopefully will be Monday, it'll have 26, 25, 24 days. Shut up. 4 hours of sleep, I reiterate. 24 days left. They're currently at 930 euros out of the 12,000, which is 8%. But we can push that. We can push that, guys. Come on. Well,
yeah, definitely.
You should figure out
need to for me.
You should hand out your social security number in their honor.
Yeah, I'm actually definitely going to be like, I have some extra money, and I'm going to be pledging 25 euro, which is some amount of US.
I was going to go for the 35. Like,
The 35?
as we were talking about it, I was clicking on it and trying to do it, but it wouldn't accept my card.
Yeah, the
weird.
art in this game looks really cool too. If you look at the Indiegogo, like they really have this sort of, it feels sort of like it's in the past, but it's definitely in the future, and it definitely feels like this could actually happen.
Well, I can tell you one thing that they don't have in this world in the game.
What's that?
They don't have fancy pants. But you know what they could use?
What's that?
Free fun. And this week on Free Fun, we have Fancy Pants World 1 Remix. For those of you who have been around the internet for longer than... I don't even know when this came out, actually, originally. Let's just say 10 years. It's been a while. Fancy Pants is one of the best... I will venture to say this. It is one of the best Flash games, free Flash games, that I've played online. There is a small list of amazing Flash games online that I'm like, I would have paid money for that. And in fact, you can actually pay money for Fancy Pants, like some bigger version of it, but there's plenty to play on the free Flash version. Now, Fancy Pants, if you didn't know, is a platformer where you play as a stick figure wearing fancy pants. You can jump around, you can kind of run up walls, you can wall jump and everything like that. There's enemies you have to avoid. There's tons and tons of unlockables. And in this remix, he's doing the remix, one, because he wanted to make the World 1, because World 1 was made so long ago, he wanted to make it kind of up to par with his more recent games, but also he's doing that in celebration of his newest Fancy Pants game that you can buy. And in the game, you can also, if you want to, just to mention, you can support him, and you'll get like extra levels and extra stuff, hats, and there's like hats that you can unlock and stuff like that in the game by paying like a little bit of money for, I guess it's like a microtransaction type of thing. But that's if you want to support him. Otherwise, the game is still fun. It's one of those games that isn't, it's a platformer, but it's not linear at all, because you start off at the beginning of level 1, World 1, and you're running through, you collect all the coins or whatever it is, I guess they're coins, and then there's doors all over the place that you can go into. You can either skip a door, or you can go into it, and it just takes you to someplace completely new. And the farther you get into it, it's because you're just going down a rabbit hole. If you go into a door, you go into another door, you go into another door. You can go back out if you want to, if you don't like what you see. But every time you go deeper and deeper, it gets a little bit harder. It gets a little bit puzzly. There were certain parts where timing was ridiculous, where I was like, I'm not ready for this, and I back out of the door and move on to a different part of the game. I get impressed with, first of all, the physics in this game. It's not
very smooth.
It's I wouldn't say realistic, because it's kind of floaty, but like you said, smooth is a really good word for it. It's floaty, but as long as you know that it's floaty, you can time your playthrough, your platform perfectly. There's no issues with like, oh, what the hell, where you're trying to get onto this tiny little platform or something like that. If you can't get on the platform, it's because you suck, not because the game sucks.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Here's my problem with this. So I've tried playing this earlier, and I couldn't. and I couldn't figure out why. And I was getting ready to just blast this game, because for all of your talking on it, if somebody can't actually play the game because every time you go to click on the start button, it brings over a menu that blocks the start button, I was going to be pissed.
I never had that problem
until I realized
a little bit.
Until I realized that the game menu screen is playable.
Yep.
And then I ran over to the start door, the start button, and went through.
Well, that's your fault. That's another. If you can't do something in this game, it's most likely your fault.
Yeah.
Point that out.
And it doesn't really hold your hand. Not that it's like complicated or anything, but it's
it's basically WASD in space or arrow keys in space. Just it's 5 buttons, man. Can you handle it?
Yes, but there's still a learning curve. Can I jump on people? Can I hit people?
Well, it's experimentation. It's not when you die.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I like that aspect.
I like the mechanic where if you hit somebody and they hit somebody, they die. So you can get chains of death.
And you can bounce off their hats.
Yeah.
If they're wearing hats.
No, this game is a lot of fun. Very simplistic style. I love the control. It's tight, is the only way I could describe the controls.
Well, this just in, Rev sucks at platforming. But you know what doesn't suck at platforming?
Our show.
The show does not suck, and it also doesn't suck at platforming because it's not sentient. However...
vacuums. Black holes.
This is the end of the show, and for those of you who don't know, we do for those of you listening in the live stream who don't know, we do a recorded version. It is on JaShinYa, or God, I always do that. YouTube.com/JaShinYa Gaming, where we have background music, bumpers, and gameplay footage, all that sort of stuff. For those of you listening to the edited version, we also do live shows every Friday around 9 p.m. Eastern Time, depending on life. And this week, the background music is by Stunkel. Go check him out with the link in the description and let them know Indie Game Riot sent you, because we love you. And if you do know another indie game dev or an indie game, indie game dev like Mark, or an indie game musician like Stunkel, or anything, or R1, yeah. Or if you know or are anything that has to do with indie games, let us know. Let us know, because we could feature you, and I'll tell you how you can let us know. You can let us know through Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @IGR Podcast. On Facebook.com/IGR Podcast. We also have a subreddit. Our Reddit is reddit.com/r/Indie Game Riot. You can also follow us on Steam if you search Indie Game Riot, where you can follow our curation list as well, where we have all the games available on Steam that we've featured on the show. Very soon, we own the domain. Should we just shout out the domain already?
Sure.
Because we're going to get hosting very soon, I'm sure. Yeah, it's nothing there yet, but I'm sure we're going to get the hosting very, very soon and get it up and running very, very soon. The domain, if you want to check out the under construction page, is indiegameriot.com. And for now, you can just obviously there's no website there yet. So for now, you can just contact us by emailing at JaShinYaGaming@gmail.com. But eventually, there will be different ways to contact us through the website. That's exciting.
Did you mention the Reddit?
Did I mention Domino's is brought to your face by my fist?
And enable the evolution.
Best burn ever.
Ow.
Yeah.
It hurts me in my logic.
You and your logic.
Yeah.
Should say goodbye.
See you next time, guys.
Have a good one, folks.
Toodles! Too much inflection. Sorry, I'll do it. This is episode 20 of the Indie Game Riot.
Yeah. It'll all come back to me when we start talking about it. What was so funny about that?
Ruster's like, no, you've got way too much inflection. Do it again, Josh. Deadpan. This is the new game, right? He's like, yep.
That's what that was. This is Indie Riot. We have games that we're talking about this week.
This is NPR, Indie
fun.
Game Riot.
I listen to NPR in the car when I'm delivering, and it's keeps me sane and awake.
I met what's her face, the host of Fresh Air. That's actually her name. What's her face? Huh?
Diane Rehm.
I forget her name actually, but I did meet her.
Sure.
When I was working at the library,
Lakshmi Singh, I don't know.
When I was working at the library around here, she was a speaker at an event.
That's cool.
That we went to. It was pretty entertaining.
I really like a prairie midsummer song or whatever it's called. I can't remember.
I feel like the name that you gave me was not right.
I hate
Fresh
that show. Moving on.
With.
All right, let's start this up.
Terry Gross is her name.
About my
Fuck you.
Prairie Home Companion rage later.
Okay.
It's Terry Reed. That's her name.
Okay.
Or whatever. I don't even know. Whatever. We're doing this entire show NPR style. Just for you, Ruster. Hope you're fucking happy.
Today on the Indie News.
This episode brought to you by Rock.
We all sound like what's his face from Ghostbusters.
I'm only phoning in the amount of effort that they are paying me in this job.